distinguished speakers, Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, Director General of Shipping, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Mr. Pramod Kumar Agrawal, Principal Chief Commissioner of Customs, Mumbai Customs Zone 1, Mr. Vinit Majgaonkar, Member CII, National Committee on Logistics and Chairman Armstrong Dematic, Mr. Manish Saigal, Managing Director, Alvarez and Marsal. Ladies and gentlemen, a very happy good morning to all of you. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for the 18th edition of Building Warehousing Competitiveness. I'm happy to welcome you all to this conference at the capacity of a member of CII Warehouse National Network known as WNN. CII WNN has an objective to connect every warehouse in the country, irrespective of the size and location, to make the Indian warehousing globally competitive. I'm really happy to welcome Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, Director General of Shipping, Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, a 1997 batch IAS officer of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, assumed the role of Director General of Shipping under the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Government of India. On July 3, 2023, previously he served as Zone Development Commissioner at SEZ in Mumbai under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. His assignments in Assam included roles as Commissioner and Secretary, Finance Department and Commissioner, North Assam Division. In Kerala, he served as Commissioner, Commercial Taxes and Chairman of Civil Supplies Corporation. He also held the position of District Magistrate in West Jagro Hills, Meghalaya. Mr. Jagannathan's expertise spans in public finances, export promotion, public policy analysis, and rural development. Currently, as the DG Shipping, he is focusing on leveraging technology to computerize workflows and reform examinations in compliance with international maritime standards. We expect him soon on the dais. He is just about to enter to the conference. It's my privilege to welcome Mr. Pramod Kumar Agrawal, Principal Chief Commissioner of Customs, Government of India. Mr. Agrawal is a 1988 IRS officer, has worked as departmental representative in Custom, Central Excise and Service Tax Appellate Authorities. Both in the capacity as an additional commissioner and commissioner as commissioner, he served in both Central Excise and GST Commissionerate at Mumbai, Jabalpur and Nagpur, and in Customs in Mumbai. As Principal Chief Commissioner, he has continued with his path-breaking initiatives like Samar Sevak project, which is an in-house capacity building initiative, Saidav Sati for the welfare of retired officers, Gyan Sarida project, which is a mentorship program for the newer officers for the department. Two major infrastructure projects under his visionary leadership, office and residential complex at Vadala, Mumbai was initiated, and the CBLMS, that is All India Project for Customs Brokers Licensing and Management System. This is all been completed under his leaderships. It is my pleasure to welcome Vinit Majgaonkar, Member CII National Committee on Logistics and Chairman Armstrong Dematic. Mr. Vinit Majgaonkar is the chairman of Armstrong. He is known as a prominent innovator and senior leader in the intralogistics automation industry. He has been in the high-tech automation industry for 27 years, including 20 years of Armstrong and 2 years of senior leadership on a German board. Now let me welcome Mr. Manish Saigal. He is again going to be soon on the dais, the Managing Director of Alvarez and Marsal. Mr. Manish Saigal is a Managing Director with Alvarez and Marsal in Mumbai and leads the firm's business transformation services practices in India. He advises on strategy, market entry, commercial and operational diligence, and post-merger integration offerings for A&M in India. As CII Institute of Logistics, with the mission to improve logistics competitiveness of the Indian industry, has been working with many stakeholders. CII Institute of Logistics was established in 2004 to address the growing need of sharpening India's competitive edge through better logistics and supply chain practices. With the vision to become an integral center of excellence in the logistics and supply chain management, and to facilitate Indian industry to be referred in the global businesses for its best practices in supply chain management and logistics. CII Institute of Logistics has forged academic partnership with many leading universities nationwide, offering undergraduates and postgraduates logistics supply chain management. These programs, curated by industry experts, emphasize the practical knowledge with 60% of the curriculum centered on hands-on industry experience. CII School of Logistics is the first ever industry-led logistics and supply chain business school in India. The curriculum is designed to develop by the industry expertise with the academic framework to mentor and train the students rigorously and carve them to be industry ready with the global standard and capabilities. Since inception, CII School of Logistics have achieved 100% record all these years. In fact, I'm happy to say that we have been continued to be hiring our talents from the CII School of Logistics for not only for India, but also for our worldwide. Now let me come to this particular edition of 18th edition of Building Warehousing and Competitiveness. The Indian economy is experiencing rapid growth and is on track to become the world's third largest economy by 2031, with a projected GDP of 6.7 trillion. This expansion is underpinned by robust consumption patterns driven by rising income levels. As India progresses toward this economic milestone, it finds itself at a pivotal juncture, transitioning into a global manufacturing hub. Central to this transition, the progress towards an economic milestones, the catalyst of warehousing is very important. Transition to this development of a sophisticated infrastructure ecosystem where the warehousing sector assumes a critical role. The warehousing industry in India is witnessing notable upsurge in demand, propelled by factors such as an escalating consumption, governmental initiatives like Make in India and production-linked incentives. And a sweeping digital transformation is accelerating this. Warehouses have evolved from a traditional standalone godown to an integral components of large-scale logistics parks, often spanning vast acreages of land space. This shift underscores and emphasizes on efficiency, scalability, and technological integration. Furthermore, the demand for grade A warehousing facility has surpassed that of an overall warehousing requirement. Over the next 5 years, the grade A warehousing space is projected to reach 320 million square feet. This rising demand is driven by evolving consumer expectations, necessitating shorter delivery times, enhanced tracking capabilities, and a sharper focus on inventory management. Consequently, businesses are leveraging third-party logistics providers and embracing innovations in automation and transportation, that to maintain the competitiveness but also meet the customer expectations of just in time. Today, the conferences will cover 3 major components as we evolve today. One, the first, enhancing customer experience through modern warehousing. Following that, transforming operations through smart warehousing. And the third, we have a building a robust warehouse ecosystem to drive the growth. I think I have to take a pause as Manish is expected to be here. But however, let me welcome him. Now I may request soon after Manish comes on the dais to address the theme of unlocking the growth through intelligent warehousing. As we aiming to be the third largest economy, not there, but also as the manufacturing hub of the world, and also the largest consumer industry, I think intelligent warehousing ecosystem coupled with automation is something which is important to accelerate our perspective, achieve our objective of becoming the third largest economy as we move in. So we are actually right on time. So thank you, Manish. And I would actually straight invite you to deliver the unlocking growth and intelligent warehousing and the theme addressed by yourself. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great way to start when you get clogged in the traffic just necessitates the need to declog our transport infrastructure, right? My name is Manish Saigal. I've been fortunate to be working with CI Institute for Logistics now for a little over a decade and a half. And BWC again has been a great initiative for the industry. Over a period of time, I think it's taken shape of a fairly large and vibrant community that actually gets together every year. But we really don't end here. We actually talk about a lot of initiatives that we kind of follow through with various policymakers and industry stakeholders. I'm here to just give my opening notes. I don't know if I can get the presentation on. Okay, great. So when we were thinking about BWC this year, thank you. I think one of the thoughts that we had was, we have seen warehousing becoming larger, so scale has been talked about. We've seen warehousing become customer-oriented in terms of how you sort of design the warehouses. We've also seen warehousing becoming green, right? So sustainable, environmental focused. So this year, our focus was more to sort of think about some of these themes coming together, but more importantly, warehousing becoming intelligent, right? And how we need to kind of design future warehouses in a manner that they address what the end users are really looking for. And some of the end users that warehousing industry is catering to, ladies and gentlemen, are some of the smartest end use industries that you could think about, right? E-commerce, consumer industries, automotive. And therefore, there is need for warehousing also to become intelligent. And that's really the theme that I thought I will touch upon. We all know, these charts have been kind of spoken about on several forums. We are all quite optimistic about the kind of growth this sector is likely to witness. Coming out of COVID, we actually saw a very significant growth. I must say some of that has also slowed down in the last year or so because there was so much of buoyancy coming out of COVID because of boom that we saw in e-commerce industries. That some of that has slowed down, and that's also maybe, in certain pockets, when I meet my colleagues in the industry, seems to be worrying them. But I always say that, look, when you look at the long-term trends of India, especially driven around consumption, and also government focus on creating Make in India thrust and therefore creating capacities around the country. This is one sector that I feel very confident will see growth. And therefore, at an overall level, we are looking at adding almost like a 500 billion square feet across grade A and B in the next 5 years. And when you really think about what's driving that growth, I get excited by looking at the stock of grade A, and now there is also a new category of grade A plus, right, that we really talk about, which is really the most modern spec warehouses that you could sort of come across. But what's underpinning, this growth are really these 5 or 6 themes that we clearly talk about. First being that clearly there is a wider product assortment that's available in terms of the kind of warehouse is no more just a box, right? There's a wider assortment of the kind of product offerings you could see, which is also specific to industry, specific to use cases, also specific to how you design those warehouses, right? Size and scalability. I always say big is getting beautiful in warehousing. I mean, it's easier to sell, a 200, 300,000 square feet logistics park than maybe a 20,000 or 30,000 square feet warehouse, which used to be the case in the past, right? We're also seeing that warehouses are becoming an integral part of supply chain. So a lot of people are actually thinking about their supply chain in and around warehouses, not the other way around, right? I mean, 10 years back, you would almost have automotive companies saying, look, I need a warehouse here. Now actually people are designing their warehouses, designing their supply chains, thinking about where they can get the economies of scale and the best cost efficiency from a hub and spoke perspective. We're also seeing a lot of focus on velocity and therefore the whole hub and spoke model, but very importantly balancing it with cost-effective operations, including intelligent and automated warehouses. Interconnected warehousing, again, technology has come a long way, both in terms of just the mechanization of warehouses, but more importantly, how we access data and how we use that data across the supply chain, and therefore take decisions which actually help us plan our replenishments, our inventories a lot more intelligently and smartly. And last but not least, I think I must say, because I do work a lot with this community, I think there has been a very significant investment flow that we've seen in the sector. If I look at the last 5 years, I think India has received more than about 10 billion plus US dollars of investment that's actually gone in building these warehouses. And that's actually a good news, because this is patient capital which has actually seen development of this asset class in markets like US, Europe, and we are getting access to that capital along with a lot of that capability and resources. And therefore, the look and feel of these warehouses, technology in these warehouses is actually world class. And that's actually a welcoming sign, because when I talk to a lot of these institutional investors on my road shows overseas, they tell me India is one of the top markets for deployment for many of them. We talked about this framework called FACT, right? And this, in my view, is a good barometer to sort of really look at intelligent warehouses, right? So, and again, it sort of has 4 key elements. The velocity, which is really the speed at which you do the movement in and out of warehouse. Accuracy, again, for order fulfillments. Remember, in many of these warehouses, I came across a facility that Amazon signed up, 1 million square feet single location with a fulfillment center along with a sortation center. The plan is that they would possibly do almost like 1 million square feet a day kind of sorts, right? And therefore, the kind of accuracy you need when you're handling so many small to large parcels has to be at a very different level, right? And that actually cannot be done manually. It's impossible to handle those kind of sorts manually. And that's really, in my view, the accuracy part, right? And people are talking about the 6 Sigma kind of accuracies, PPM kind of measures, which are becoming important. While all these warehouses are becoming bigger, there's a lot of automation going in, I also want to kind of draw your attention to one more point, that a lot of people think that these are becoming expensive because obviously these are international standard warehouses. But what we've clearly seen is that as warehouses become bigger, automation becomes feasible, right? I mean, you cannot really do automation if warehouses are 10, 20,000 square feet, right? And therefore, our studies have indicated that in some of these larger warehouses, you actually have a phenomenal opportunity to bring down your costs anywhere between 15 to 20%, right? So it's actually a good news when you are actually building taller, larger, intelligent, automated warehouse. Last but not least, data is king, and I very strongly believe, so should, I mean, all of you in the industry, that I think in the future, supply chains will be more stitched around data. Then, I mean, it will be a lot more phygital compared to the way it has been physically in the past, and therefore, you know, how we sort of think about transparent real-time visibility is becoming extremely important, and that these four principles, these four levers, are really the framework of intelligent warehouses as we sort of talk about. I'll just end my opening note with these concluding comments. Why I believe, and I keep sort of talking about in various industry forums and my work that I do with a lot of warehouse developers and users is, I think we need to kind of think about large intelligent warehouses, because it actually gives us economies of scale and cost leadership. It gives us better business continuity, it lowers our risks and operational challenges. And very importantly, I think this is something that we've seen, especially with a lot of retail and e-commerce companies, it also gives you a lot of scalability potential, right, at the same location without affecting the supply chain, because people in the past did not anticipate that they would actually see volume growth into like 20, 30% annually, right? And therefore, they would always be scampering for finding the next warehouse out. Now, a lot of customers are looking for scalable options, that if I go and put a flag somewhere, how do I think about 200,000 square feet becoming 400, 400 becoming a million, right? And those kind of options today are possible through these large logistics parks, which run into a few million square feet, 200, 300 acre kind of facilities, you know, in the country. With this, I'll end my note just again, you know, reiterating my opening point that the future of warehousing is really the future of supply chain. In my view, it's a critical cog in the supply chain wheel, and you know, and therefore, like if I just continue with the themes of BWC, warehouses have to become bigger, they have to become greener and more sustainable, and they have to become intelligent. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, thank you, Manish, for setting up the tone for the day. And indeed, as we are seeing the warehouses becoming bigger, greener, and larger, and I think it's also that the managing those warehouses and bringing up the efficiency is actually lies in the power of automations and the digitization. So I think we have now Vinit Majgaonkar, who is a member of CII National Committee on Logistics and Chairman Armstrong and Dematic, to deliver that is on the power of robotics and automation for CX and smartness and the growth. As an automation is an essential part of driving it, and I am sure we are all eagerly waiting to hear your perspective on that.
Thank you, Pavithran. Good morning, all. Dignitaries on the dais and esteemed audience. In April, the world's largest democracy took off its elections. And this flight that took off in April went through a lot of turbulence, as we all know. And I think one of the ugliest, maybe, campaigns in the history have finally ended. 6 weeks of elections finally concluded. Some surprised, some not so surprised. But finally, I must say that all this turbulence said and done, the aircraft has landed. And as we land as the elections end, and this turbulence has landed finally safely, I think it's time for us to take a perspective on the macroeconomics of where we stand today. At a GDP level, India is always currently hovering between $2,500 per capita. And when it comes to automation and robotics in the warehousing sector, it is typically said that $4,000 is that tipping point of a GDP where automation and robotics starts making greater sense, which means that India has a lot to catch up. But I think that, that's a very 35,000 feet level assessment. If you are to get one level deeper into what India really is, then I think we have to look at India into about the Indian population into about 4 tiers. We all know that we are the world's most populous country, and we have 1% elite in this country who are at par with the elite of the world. And I think for today's discussion, I will move them out of our discussion. That is the topmost tier of per capita GDP. But what is interesting is the second and the third tier. The second tier, which constitutes of about 50 million people, 5 crores, is currently a per capita GDP of about 45,000 euro, which is at par with the Western Europe. Interestingly, the third tier, constituting about 425 million people, 42.5 crores, has a per capita GDP of about 11,000 euros, which is at par with Eastern Europe. And the balance, 950 million, about 95 crores, has a per capita GDP of about 1.5K, $1,500, which is at par with sub-Saharan African economy. But if we add up the 50 million and the 425 million together and look at this mass of 475 million people, this is almost, which is West Europe plus East Europe. This is the current buying power that we are trying to address. If we look at 250 million people who have been elevated from that $1,500 per capita into the next bracket of 11,000 euro per capita in the last 10 years, I think that is what has really made the difference. And needless to say that this 475 million population, which constitutes the Western Europe buying power as well as the Eastern Europe buying power, is also coagulated between the tier 1, tier 2, and partly the tier 3 cities, making it easy for us to address the customers. Well, sitting in India, we are late to realize this, but the Western world already has. And because of this, we will definitely be having increasing competition from the West, especially because the growth rates of the West, as we all know, have either stagnated or declined. The current growth in the West is that of inflation rather than the actual growth. And hence, we must expect some more competition from the West. During COVID, e-commerce practically doubled. And coming from robotics and automation for warehousing, and also multi-agent orchestration platforms that we build in software, we have actually witnessed that growth and also complemented and supplemented to that growth. But post-COVID, we have seen an interesting phenomenon. The buying behavior of the consumers have reverted back to, not I would say reverted back, but it has beautifully adjusted and actually accelerated omni-channel consumer behavior. And what is omni-channel? Omni-channel delivery basically is where a consumer, a customer, becomes oblivious to the channels by which the goods or services reach him or her. A person can buy something online and get it delivered to his doorstep, or pick up something in the brick and mortar shop, try it out in his office, but return it online. So where all these channels completely fuse together, and the consumer, the customer, actually loses the consciousness of the channel, that's the mental state which is called as omnichannel, in very simple terms. And to cater to these omnichannel needs, I think multi-agent orchestration platforms and robotics and automation becomes imperative. How does this all help you, and where does it really help you? We have very conclusive evidences now over a period of time of how this has helped. In the COVID period, the brick and mortar companies, like especially the FMCGs, they also realized that they can very comfortably handle e-commerce. And the biggest traction that we are seeing in the automation is in the field of FMCGs and less in the field of e-commerce, especially post 2023. The Unilevers, the Haldirams, the ITCs, they have all realized the power of e-commerce, and we are glad that we have been automating multiple warehouses for these giant brands in India for the last couple of years and the years to come. And this is happening because either you have high volumes, high variety, or high value items to cater to. Yes, please. So while you're handling these high volumes, high value and high variety items, you have to be very, very conscious of controlling the cost of poor quality. The costs that you incur into pilferages, into mishandling. Cost of poor quality can be contained with the right automation. At the same time, automation also enables you to bring down the spaces by up to 1/4. In places like Bhiwandi, for example, where real estate is not very economical, imagine saving the space by 4 times, or bringing down the space requirement to 1/4. It is also important with growing volumes to have an eye on safety. That is what also is assured to you by robotics and automation. So, while doing all this, it is very important to have an extremely high visibility, and visibility in terms of having exact coordinates of your goods, in terms of which goods are lying at which exact place at what time, and having an extreme high velocity in achieving all this. So speed, accuracy, visibility, these are the important factors. And of course, last but not the least, the growing challenges of trained manpower. So you need to have, and not only the challenges of manpower, but also the increasing costs of manpower. The seasonality of your businesses suddenly demanding high manpower. So putting all these challenges together, I think automation has become more and more imperative. And going forward, I would say that if India was able to elevate 250,000 million people from poverty to the middle class, India has come to the level of being the 5th largest economy in the world, heading towards the 3rd largest economy in the next 7 to 10 years. Then how does the macroeconomics look like? Who is your customer exactly now? You are looking at about 100 million Western Europe, 10 crores of population, which has the GDP at par with Western Europe. You are looking at about 700 plus million population, which has its per capita GDP at par with Eastern Europe. And if you add this up together, you are looking at a consumer base of almost 800 million consumers, which is more than the population of Europe to cater to. The rest, I leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinit, for that excellent outline in terms of where the digitization and automations, and particularly in the robotics space, is to be essential in the journey of our becoming a third largest economy in the country, and what warehousing as a space is going to contribute in there. So now we, maybe before I move into that, one observation as that probably one of the topic which we would like to be addressed as CII, as the logisticians is, I could only see very fewer gender from females here in the supply chain and logistics even, and warehousing specifically. I think how do we increase that stake, and how do we embrace those gender equality in those spaces? So some of those thoughts I saw in the journey to becoming there. I think it's very essential to look at. So now I may request Mr. Pramod Kumar Agrawal, the Principal Chief Commissioner of Customs, Mumbai Customs Zone 1, to deliver his address on warehousing, a future growth saga. And an interesting topic, in fact, because he has always been in the industry and actually, driving in terms of transformation at the customs and side, and he has actually now been touching in terms of the warehousing space. So, and in fact, customs has been forefronter, because I believe then we were in the earlier, before even COVID, on digitizing the border clearances. And even it was always been saying that customs were slow, but we realized that industry was slow in adopting it, because customs were forefront in digitizing on those space. Thanks to the customs for taking that leap, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Shubh Sakal. How are you feeling this morning, being in Taj and being in the conference on building warehousing competitiveness, organized by Institute of Logistics by CII. I think you must be having the great morning, because you have already heard two of the, I think, best speakers of the industry, and they have touched two important topics. One is robotics, another is you touched on intelligent. You say, I will use the word not intelligent, but smart. We have seen the smart telephones, the smartphones. Now this intelligent word and the smartness is very common in industry or with the consumers. Friends, let me introduce myself first, that I am Pramod Kumar Agrawal, Principal Chief Commissioner of Customs of Mumbai, and I have worked in Mumbai in all the capacities, right from Deputy Commissioner, right from that introductory remark he has said that warehousing has grown from the typical godown to multi-modal logistic park. And I have seen that journey right from Deputy Commissioner, when Bhiwandi, people must be, you must be aware and very familiar with the place called Bhiwandi and their typical godowns and so-called warehouses. So I have seen their journey very closely. Being in the, both GST, central excise, service tax, and now in customs department. Do you consider me as your one of the important stakeholder or not? Yes. Yes. Customs, I consider, yes. Custom department is an important stakeholder so far as logistics is concerned, and especially the warehousing. How many of you are aware that customs is very deeply connected with the warehousing? Are you aware of the word, since you people have come for the warehousing community? Private licensed warehouses, public licensed bonded warehouses? Yes. So that is the reason I am here. And that too, when Bharat is poised to take a leap from 5th largest economy to the 3rd largest. Now we are calling 3rd largest, but at some point of time we will be the number 1 also. Why don't you believe from today itself? What's harm in thinking, okay, we call it after 5 years 3rd. I am calling, my Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister is calling Viksit Bharat by 2047. Why don't we approach 2047 with that mindset? Friends, it's a really great pleasure to speak to you today, this morning, on warehousing ecosystem in India. And very dear subject for the customs, because it is a critical element of our nation's logistics and supply chain. Infrastructure warehousing is not just about storing goods. I told you, not typical Bhevandi. Now the people have spoken, the great speakers have spoken about intelligent warehousing, robotics and all use. How this has come on the front that we are discussing today. This is driven by the consumer behavior. This is, consumer is at the center today of the whole logistic ecosystem. Today, consumer is at the center. Mr. Vinit was, giving lot of facts and figures of GDP. 45 million started with, then he ended with this around 80 crores, 800 million, that consumer base. दोस्तों, भारत ये कोई ऐसी वैसी अर्थव्यवस्था नहीं है. हमें कोई यूरोप से कंपटीशन नहीं है, ना मुझे अमेरिका से कंपटीशन है, बिकॉज हमारे अंदर अफ्रीका भी है, यूरोप भी है और अमेरिका भी है, जैसा इन्होंने कहा. हमारी सबसे बड़ी ताकत, the biggest strength of this country, that we have largest base of consumers and largest base of bread earners, that is the wealth creators. हिंदी में बताऊं कि हमारे पास खाने वाले और कमाने वाले विश्व में सबसे ज्यादा है. अब जब दो चीजें हो, खाने वाले और कमाने वाले, what else you require? These are the two important factors that lead to economic development and prosperity of any nation. These are the two strong points, I will say. Now, how to exploit, or I will not use the word exploit, how to use that, how to leverage that. As I told you, that in the center today, economic. Mr. Vinit mentioned about the consumer behavior pre-COVID and post-COVID. Then I think you use the word multi-model, omni-channel consumer behavior. And I am telling you, this is the key element that today, at the right moment, that CIA has organized the conference on warehousing. And customs, being your important stakeholder, we commit ourselves to strengthen your competitiveness, to strengthen your capacity building, to be part of the Honorable Prime Minister's vision of national logistics. Whatever he has the vision for, he started with PM Gati Shakti. I'll touch upon all. I'm not going to talk to you typical that this is the warehousing, you have to use modern infrastructure, sustainable, there are a lot of speakers that will talk about you. They have already touched upon that. We need modern infrastructure with cost efficient solution. That's all. How to bring about that change and to satisfy the needs of the industry, to satisfy the needs of the consumer, to match with the consumers' omni-channel behavior. Earlier we used to have a grocery shop next to us, next to our residence. We used to buy, we used to go. Now next to the grocery shop there is another storage. Some storage of the vegetable, storage of the goods and all. And they deliver, we call it Blinkit and all, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's also part of the warehousing. We talked about, right from that go-down concept to multimodal logistic park, and we have succeeded. Friends, in our country itself, in our nation, भारत इतना विशाल है, इतना एक्सपेंस है कि हमारे पास इतनी अवसर हैं, इतने opportunities हैं. And when we include the world is looking upon us that, okay, please, India, help us. You have the capacities. You can become the manufacturing hub of the world. You can become the supplier of the trained manpower to the world. Investment already, Mr. Manish has touched upon. Yes, a lot of factors, he said, growth. But we should not rather encourage, but encompass, we should take into account the rural economy of this country also. The person who earns 500 rupees a day, he also, now his behavior, consumer behavior has also changed. He or she also buys the goods online. In a remote village, or at least this is because of the connectivity. Mr. Jagannathan said ki now, or somebody, Mr. Manish also said ki now we have to come important, we have to do improvement in transport infrastructure, logistics. Mr. Jagannathan was also stuck up, our DG Shipping, he was also stuck up because of this. And you know, wherever you go in Mumbai, you will find Mumbai is upgrading. Of course it is upgrading. We have now Atal Setu, we have Coastal Road, and now I came to know yesterday that one of the, metro train is also coming up within, I think, few days. They are opening up. See, everywhere we are growing. And why we are growing? Because we have demand for that. We have appetite for that. Friends, I have come here to create demand for me, to create appetite for me. All this country has witnessed in 2017 great reforms like GST. We have removed the artificial barriers created. Now India has become one market, one tax, one economy, one market. So warehousing has to become very easy now. Warehousing has to be very intelligent. Warehousing has to be very smart. Warehousing has to be, they say that it has become from a smaller to big. You have become very big. But you have to be very smart also. Again, consumer at the center. But what customs can do? Government of India is equally very sensitive. Right in 2019, we introduced a scheme called MOOWR. Manufacturing and Other Operation in Warehousing Regulations. And we gave you facility that you can import duty free, or you can payment deferred, we call it deferred payment, manufacturing and other operations in warehousing. And you can manufacture, import duty free, deferred duty, and then with a very, very online compliances and all technological solution for that, you can defer your payment of duty, utilize that cost efficiency and manufacture the goods. Again, either you can export it or to supply to the domestic market. But you will be surprised to know that in Bombay, we have to make outreach program. We have to convince you that this is the scheme for the government of India has. And in Bombay only, if I can tell you that 27 warehouses only have applied for these licenses, these regulations, and this is a great facility. I am here to tell you, please exploit that. I was telling organizers of this conference that please, if you can tell me right tomorrow itself, I can, or by say Monday, Tuesday, or any time you can tell us, we are there to assist you, to outreach you, to tell you how beneficial this scheme is. Warehousing is a very important segment of logistics industry in this country. Another scheme we have introduced, we call it authorized economic operator. If you want a faster, quicker, safer supply chain, and across the world, authorized economic, it is on the SAFE platform of World Customs Organization, and we are offering right from tier 1, tier 2, T3, and for logistics. Person like you can apply as a LO, logistics operator, and we are providing license so that you have hassle-free customs clearances across the world. And we are giving you license. But very few applicants we are still having in custom house. We are having an outreach program that please come help us to help you, to assist you. I am coming back to the rural and agricultural sector. We need lot of storage capacity there. Lot of storage, because you see 50% or more than 50% population stay there. We should also touch upon that how we can increase the competitiveness, how we can exploit that uncharted still that segment where the grains and all. We know that government has introduced a lot of like CWC and other warehousing. Railway has some warehousing facilities, but still in private sector there is a lot of scope to go out of the city limit and exploit that storage facility, create that modern storage facility, because there is the big segment of consumer resides. Your big consumer base in the country itself is in the suburban area sector, in the rural sector, in the agricultural sector. All the challenges, the future, you see, I told you in India future of industry, especially the warehousing industry, especially the logistics industry, and you have depends on the consumer behavior, and you know how consumer is behaving now. So we are really, warehousing industry is facing various challenges. We are part of you and we are with you. So whatever the role of customs department is there, but these challenges have to overcome. We have to overcome all the challenges. There is a need, one of the speakers said, the skilled manpower to manage and operate advanced warehousing facilities. Sustainability, that we have become bigger and greener, but that sustainability is required. There is a growing need for building green warehouses, already speaker have touched. And why? Because we have to minimize energy consumption and carbon footprint. Addressing these challenges requires concerted efforts, which this, I think, whole day conference, they will touch upon all these points. Both, I don't say that not, from the policy aspects of the government also, and you have to take equal burden. That yes, अब झंडा हमारे हाथ में, हमको इसको आगे लेके जाना है. In the end, I would say that warehousing sector in India is transformative phase, driven by technological advancements, policy reforms, and evolving trade dynamics. While there are challenges to overcome, the opportunities for growth and development are immense. By embracing innovation, investing in infrastructure, and fostering collaboration, we can build a robust and efficient warehousing network that supports India's economic growth. And then it will take us closer to Viksit Bharat. That's our theme, that's our aim, 2047. So friends, I am here to tell you, it's not only that third and all. Please, my request that we have to be number one in 2047, Viksit Bharat. With that aim in mind, वो जज्बा अपने दिमाग में लेके ये कॉन्फ्रेंस को सफल बनाइए. I wish you all the success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pramod Agrawal, and it's been indeed great to touch base as we have seen the two significant initiative, which is becoming a catalyst in our industrial growth in terms of manufacturing and other activities in the warehouses as well as AEO. I'm sure as we continue to engage with our industry, specifically the customers who are on the manufacturing side, how could they embrace this initiative from the customs, which accelerate the border clearances, not only but also improve the working capital. And end of the day, look at the warehousing as well as AEO both. where if you are in AE or Tier 2, you have an option to pay customs duty later. So that actually you can produce the material, get into the consumer hand and collect the money and then pay the custom duty. I think these are the drastic change which is brought in our industry. We should be educating our team and the peers around and get this whole facility to be utilized in growing India's economic growth. And I'm sure with this all, yeah.
In my custom house, I have an auditorium of over 150 people.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And with that, actually, it's not only 6.7 trillion economy, I'm sure we could be the 24 trillion economy when 47 come, or beyond 47, yeah. Thank you, and before I introduce, and also we hear from Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, the Director General of Shipping, Ministry of Ports and Shipping and Waterways of Government of India. We have an unlocking growth through intelligent warehousing. We need to have a publication release, which is the joint efforts of CII, Institute of Logistics, and Alvarez and Marsal, on unlocking growth through intelligent warehousing. And so let us have that ceremony before, sir, you address the audience. So, as we are about to hear from Shyam Jagannathan, and indeed with the various government initiatives like Sagarmala and Make in India and various aspects, I think he play a pivotal role in and being a catalyst into that arena. Sir, over to you.
Namaskar and good morning. Shri Pramod Agrawal sir, Principal Chief Commissioner of Customs, Mumbai Customs Zone 1. Mr. Manish Saigal ji, Vinit Majgaonkar ji, Shri Pavithran M Kallada ji, Ma'am Bhanumati ji, ladies and gentlemen who have assembled here and are participating in the 18th edition of the Building Warehouse Competitiveness. I have a brief presentation which I have titled Logistics Building Value Through Synergies. And please permit me to run through the slides as we go ahead. The Indian growth story has been spoken by all my esteemed colleagues on the dais. Shri Agrawal ji had reiterated not just the third largest growing economy, we are aspiring for the top of the world. This is ubiquitous through all analytical studies. The projection of overtaking Germany and Japan was around 2030. I think we will taper it by around close to 2028, 2 years before. This is how it looks in 2047. It's an ENY analytical study. We will be a 26 trillion economy. Our per capita income will be $15,000, and we will be the fastest growing, largest economy. More importantly, we continue to be the youngest in terms of numbers. We also, other than the demographic dividend, are the most stable and vibrant democracy. So I will use the words my very dear senior colleague Shri Agrawal ji had said. भारतवर्ष में खाने वाले और कमाने वाले इनकी मात्रा सबसे अधिक है. इतना मात्र ही नहीं, सबसे ज़्यादा युवा, सबसे ज़्यादा जोशीले, सबसे ज़्यादा उजागर, उन्नत और सशक्त. भारत विश्व पटल पर विश्व गुरु की भूमिका का निर्वाह भविष्य में अवश्य करेगा. एंड यू विल ऑल बी अ पार्ट ऑफ दिस ग्रोथ स्टोरी. I'll come to the semantics. This essentially is a slide that is giving you an insight on the GDP and freight projections and a comparative analysis, a rather dated one, 2021, of China and India. If you look at China's contribution to the global GDP growth, it's around 24%. The highest estimated is around 30.9%. We have been estimated at close to around 6.4%. The higher estimate is around 7.6%. So apples to apples, yes, there is a lot of mileage to be covered by India in terms of aspiring to be a manufacturing hub, just as China has already achieved. However, the good news is this. Post-COVID, our investment percentage of GDP is at 33.7%. Which indicates not just one of the most populous nations, but also one of the most favored investment destinations. And that will essentially power the economic growth that is to be seen. I'll just briefly give you a snapshot of the transportation and logistics landscape. Now, we are on the higher end in terms of our cost. The more of a cost is there in the transactions and in the value chain, the less globally competitive you are. So the aim is to bring it down to 8% to 10%. And I will talk also about the modal percentages, because if you see the split between road, rail, shipping and air, we are heavily biased towards road. 66% is by road, and road is not the most efficient way for transportation. This is a World Bank Logistics Performance Index study. It's over the years, so the multiple colors are all about the years. Starting from 2018 to 2023, we have improved our Logistics Performance Index rank to the 38th. And that is a substantial jump in terms of sheer comparative numbers. However, if you look at the radar plot, this is Singapore versus India. This is purely on the logistics and the consignment and freight handling firmament. If you see the customs infrastructure, the shipments, logistics competence, tracking, tracing, and the timelines for transaction, you will realize there's a lot of gap that we have to work on. This again is comparative. It shows China and US and where we stand in terms of rail freight performances. Our average goods train connectivity speed is somewhere around 43.2 kilometers per hour. We'll look at the high-speed freight corridors that China has, which is around 300 plus kilometers per hour. So you're moving more at a lesser value and quicker. That's where we need to aspire for. Same comes with the road transportation. Agrawal ji had again mentioned I got stuck in the traffic. Now, when we are talking about loads and consignments, we are using smaller trucks, and they cover lesser distance, while in Europe and US, you use more tonnage of trucks, and they cover larger distance in the same comparative time capsule. So they essentially are more competitive than us, and that's where we need to bridge the gap. Now, this is where we are heading. Sir had mentioned about the authorized economic operator, the mover scheme, performance-linked incentive schemes for manufacturing, for export, free trade zones, free trade agreements. All this is encapsulated in the multi-phase strategy here. When you're looking at logistics, when you're looking at warehousing, when you're looking at all aspects, The first strategy is you adopt advanced technologies and explore new business models. You fast track the infrastructure development, you attract investment and investors, and focus on sustainable logistics, which I'll touch upon separately. So you're looking at the specific things that I have tried to show graphically in the slide. And this is essentially how you empower the logistics sector, because this is something which is 300 billion and counting, and this is how you look at the grid, both in terms of multimodal logistics, water, road, rail, air. Coming to warehousing, the focus areas for improvement, as will be deliberated during the workshop, would be essentially on infrastructure, the technology available, smart warehousing, skilling of personnel, because you can't have smart warehouses unless you have the right kind of manpower to essentially have that human technology interface. And of course, what has been mentioned by Agrawal sir, simplification of the regulation regime. There's a lot of work that has been done in smart warehousing. Some of you who are actively into warehousing would understand the technology inputs, palletization, the standardization thereof, the material handling and transport, and of course, I haven't mentioned it there, but sustainability too. Now, this is where my simple request to each one of you is, as you go ahead and render your own operations smarter, more efficient, lower cost, when you add value to each of the global value chains, please also focus on the central core of environmental social governance. This will basically be the edifical pedestal on which you will have access to green finance subsequently. And that will be the fuel that grows along with you as long as you adopt sustainable practices. And technology options would have to be right, because teething technologies could be costlier. So tried and tested technologies would have proprietary ownership. But this is something all of you should invest in, and I appeal to CII also to have this as a connect when you're looking at the smart warehousing as an action agenda. The Gati Shakti plan, it is a revolution in the making, nationally giving you convergence from 7 growth engines on the entire Indian firmament on a geospatial platform. This is the government's intent to allow you to scale all infrastructure in such a way that you are able to get economies of scale, and that platform which gives you that exponential boost. Gati Shakti, as it goes along, will bring in convergence and allow more of multimodal, seamless shifting for all consignments, most value chains. This, of course, is the investment framework, the National Master Plan. Some call it also the National Infrastructure Pipeline. These, of course, are works in progress, which are the intent by the government is the amount of money that is being invested for this growth. And this is how the vision 2047 looks. You have Gati Shakti, which is looking at all the connects, and you have the new national logistics policy. So you have use of technology in digitalization, you have the regulatory framework and its ease of doing business, and you're coupling that by also using all the seed money for doubling your energies by investing it correctly in the capital that boosts you for capital infrastructure. Since I'm incumbent in the Director General of Shipping's office, please allow me to give you a ringside view of the maritime. This is India's coastline, 7,500 kilometers. We have 12 major ports, close to around 200 odd minor ports. 67 ports are doing IMPEX, import-export cargo. Just look at the growth in the maritime domain itself. This is only land-sea interface. You can see the capacity, 102% increase in the port capacity, and we will be quadrupling this by 2047. We have an Amrit Kal vision 2047 in the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways. I would request that you all latch on to that, because wherever ports are there, they are going to be centers of industrialization-led growth. This is how we are in terms of global competitiveness. JNPA has broken into one of the top 40 ports. Mundra is also there. Visakhapatnam, I'll speak about, has been a stellar story. We are second in ship recycling, fifth in terms of the seafarer pool. All bigger vessels are manned by Indians. You must have read about the Baltimore incident where a bridge was brought down. All 22 seafarers on board that vessel MV Dali, which is a Singapore flag vessel, were manned by the Synergy company and are Indian seafarers. This is what we're looking at in the future: quadrupling the port capacities, decarbonization by using alternate fuels. In terms of pleasure cruise segment, we will be one of the leaders in Asia Pacific. We will be the top nation in shipbuilding and repair, for which a grand action plan is being put forth. We will be a global leader with the Hong Kong Convention kicking in by June 2025 in ship recycling. And as I had mentioned earlier, the modal shift, the road, rail and water, we will push it more towards 12% and more emphasis on coastal and inland water transport. This is the Amrit Kal vision I spoke about. 11 themes of growth in the maritime sector. This is how it is going to look globally. Ships will become bigger. Ports will become bigger. You will have mother vessels which will actually be doing 400 TEUs and more. And that is why you will have to have smarter ports, smarter warehousing, smarter handling of multimodal logistic parks, which will allow that full seamless connect for any consignment, be it phytosanitary or be it basically bulk or be it liquid or chemical or hazmat, whichever. If you look at again the same multimodal split, if you look at India, the blue is actually road. And you look at the water is much lesser. Water is the light gray. We need to change the graph more towards the gray, because that's where you have cost competitiveness. You move more bulk. Ladies and gentlemen, today, 90% of your import-export cargo is by water, 70% by value. So that has an immediate proposition as such. One good thing happening, if you look at the top on the horizontal histogram, you will see 92% of the cargo in 1991 was by the 12 major government-led ports. Now look at what's happened in somewhere around financial year 2021. That has reduced. Government ports are now handling less than 50% of the total cargo. You have private ports coming in and doing it better. So that's showing you. This is something I put in just in time. Vessels coming in, turnaround time. Also, as Agrawal sir had mentioned, cargo clearances would happen quicker and they will all go digital and smart. So you will have your transaction times mapped. How much would be the clearance at the yard? How much would be the clearance basically physically? All transactions would be mapped individually, cargo specific. This is the biggest revolution happening in the land-sea interface. It's the maritime single window. It was mandated by the International Maritime Organization. One global universal window which will allow a vessel wherever, whichever port it is calling on, to basically give all prior details on vessel arrival, including the cargo and clearances. The National Logistics Portal Marine would integrate immigration, would integrate customs. IceGate would basically be integrated with this, and that is where you will have quicker clearances logistics-wise. That's what I had spoken about, and that is how it is. You have cargo services, carriers, banking, financial, regulatory, all coming on board the platform of the Maritime Single Window, which is called the Sagar Setu, the National Logistics Portal. This was launched by the Honorable Minister in his previous tenure, and of course, he is back again as the Honorable Union Cabinet Minister, and pushing to achieve the same in a faster trajectory. This is the Sagarmala project, which Kallada sir had mentioned. It is the single largest infusion of capital in the ports, 5.74 lakh crore rupees for more than 212 key projects which will allow ports to go to the next level in terms of connectivity, evacuation, arrival and clearances of cargo by sea. This is the standard model which is now being adopted. I just put in this slide. If you look at how a major logistics player like Adani's is handling it, they're doing it under one single umbrella. Meaning, at the place where you have the vantage arrival, say for instance Mundra, you have trains, you have the multimodal logistic park. For phytosanitary, you have grain silos, you have intelligent warehousing. JNPA also has recently adopted Box Bay, which again is a containerized, smarter way of handling and clearing containers. And then you also have a marine flotilla. So other than single point mooring, you could also have liquid cargo being handled for light range or ship-to-ship transfers, which basically enables you to do much more in terms of transshipment and logistics. All said and done, it's not easy. I mean, if you're just looking at one particular corridor that is being developed, this is like an international highway. You basically transit out from Mumbai, hit basically UAE, and then go on further up to Greece, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Look at the kind of standardization that you would have an N number of authorities all through. The key here is to ensure your consignment moves through this value chain at the lowest cost possible and in the most efficient manner. I'm coming towards the end of the presentation. This is what I wanted to talk about was Visakhapatnam. See, Visakhapatnam was a port which was neither here nor there. The terminal was handled by J.M. Bakshi, one of the major terminal handlers. And in the global rankings of 2023, it has pulled up its rank to the 19th position in container port handling, from what was 122 places down. That is phenomenal. No port has been able to show this kind of a metric and a performance like this. It's proof of the pudding in basically showing what an Indian major port is capable of. We also were elected to the International Maritime Organization Council with the highest ever votes in category B. No other country in the world got the number of votes that India got in the International Maritime Organization. We also, in terms of compliances, IMO compliances are a tough ordeal. We successfully went through the audit, cleared the audit, and are now basically on all matters on the white list of the IMO. Thank you so much for patient hearing. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Shyam Jagannathan, to taking us through the various yeah, so more initiative as well as with this maritime sector is actually been supporting an intelligence warehousing. I think it's all going to come in marine-based industry belt, and then of course warehousing is going to be a key supporter in that, enabling that vision. And also, when we said that, like we heard two of the government representatives saying about kamane wala or khane wala. So I probably say that there is a kaam karne wala. So there is all those. One is kaam dene wala, kaam karne wala, and then there is always khane wala. So I think all with this 3K together, I think we are in the journey to have that 26 trillion economy. And let us have that, and let me announce this inaugural sessions coming to an end. And I think the coffee and the networking session is immediately after this is there. So I thank each of the speakers who has actually come and enlighten us with the wisdom. And let us begin the next session soon. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all coming in.